Hello and welcome to the Vacation Rental Life Show. My name is Matt Ward and I'm here with my partner, Derek Eden, one of the three amigos. Missing tonight is Ronnie Bartles. Why? She doesn't do Tuesday nights. That's all good. Tuesdays are for Wine Club, and I guess that's what she's doing. But nonetheless, we'd love to pick at her a little bit. We are here to bring you ideas, strategies, roundtable discussions around the vacation rental world, do listing site reviews, website reviews, and anything that makes your life what it was supposed to be when you got into the vacation rental life. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing well. Feeling good.
Feeling good? That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm a little fired up. We're not going to go too in-depth tonight on my issue, but suffice it to say, I'm fighting my HOA. Many of you have been there before with that. I'm not fighting them. I'm just poking holes in their strategy. I guess that's the deal. But it's just me, and I'm against like 11 people in a small HOA, so I'm not going to die on the hill, I don't think. I don't know what I'm going to do, but we'll deal with that another day. What do you got this week, Derek? What's going on?
Well, I had a fun phone call yesterday from one of my guests calling me up. They flew into town for, I believe it was knee surgery. And so before that, they got the obligatory COVID test and told me after I had checked them in personally about, 24 hours earlier that they tested positive for COVID. And so then
it's a good thing that Derek's just on Zoom right now with us.
Yeah, exactly. So the
good news is, so what's the real issue? Is the real issue the fact that they have COVID, or is the fact that you hug your guests when they check in?
Oh, thankfully I don't. And thankfully we were both wearing masks, and I am cognizant and try to, think about being 6 feet away at all times and that kind of thing. But more so the interesting conversation with them about they're going to come back for the surgery. They wanted credit for the nights that they're not going to use because they ended up going home because they're not having the surgery now, and also working that out with the cleaners as far as, when are we going to clean the condo? How do we best prepare them so that don't have any risks, things like that. So that was a fun little exercise. And
so what is the solution to that? I mean, what are you doing?
So I didn't promise him anything today. I said that I would talk to him about a credit when he books next time, and kind of talk through with him the logic. Like, I'm not going to rebook the condo for the nights that he's not using it because I'm going to let it sit even before the guests or before the cleaners even go into the property. So what I ended up doing, because this is a controlled access building, I actually met him in the garage, because they have a parking pass and the keys. And so I brought down a Ziploc bag, had them drop the keys and the parking pass into a Ziploc bag so I didn't have to touch it. Opened the garage door myself so that they didn't have to do that, and let them out. And then went up to the condo, opened up all the windows, turned on all the fans, Lysoled every single light switch, button, drawer, handle, everything that possibly would have been touched, within reason, thinking about what high touch surfaces are. Lysoled every single item in the unit, left it open, and then walked out, and the cleaners will go back probably Wednesday afternoon and start the cleaning process at that point, after we've, basically Lysoled everything. And the biggest thing with cleaning and Lysol and all the cleaning products is dwell time. And we talked about that a little bit on our call with Dirk Johnson a few weeks back. But having to make sure it's one thing to use the cleaning products. You have to use the right products that will actually kill the viruses, but you have to also leave the product on long enough. He was saying you don't want to wipe it off right away. Yeah, and so that's what I did. I just sprayed everything, and I didn't even wipe it. I just sprayed everything and let it dry naturally, and then knowing that the cleaners are going to come back a couple days later and actually do the actual cleaning process.
And are you going to get like a sprayer or fumigating thing or anything like that? No.
No. I mean, we'll wash all linens, The
So what? Tell me more about. I mean, I think it's important that we know about the process you're going through. But to be honest with you, I think that's less important. I'm more interested in the financial decisions you made as it pertains to the booking. So tell me a little bit about that.
so I mean, my goal yesterday was to get him out of the property, to be honest, because he was talking about if I wasn't going to refund him, they might just stay. And what I didn't want is to have a back-to-back, which was what the schedule was going to be. So my goal was to do what I could to get him to leave peacefully. Not that he wasn't trying to, but he was debating about, well, if I'm going to pay for it anyway, I might as well just stay, because this was at 4 p.m. or so. It's like I might as well just spend the night tonight and check out the next day, which would have just made my window a little bit tighter than I wanted for it to clean it. I would still had 48 hours, which isn't bad, but at least now this time I had a true 72 hours, and it gave us some more flexibility. So that was my goal at the time. And given that I positioned it as a potential credit for his future stay, it's not going to happen until he rebooks, if he rebooks or whatever.
So you did give him a credit for a future stay?
No, I didn't promise him anything. I said we would talk about a credit. My words were, we'll talk about a credit when he books in the future.
Oh.
So that gives me some wiggle room on how I handle that at that point, and also gives him some time. It allows dwell time on his part too, because I kind of laid out the picture at that point and said, I have to think about, it's not just about you, Mr. Guest. There's also considerations for the owner who owns this property. I have to think about what's best for this building. I have to think about what's best for my cleaner who needs to clean, and make sure that they're safe as I can possibly make them, given the scenario, all of these things. So this is going to let it sit for him, because I mean, he was as shocked as anybody. He was, because he had no symptoms, or he was either pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic. He thought he was going in for a surgery and was just checking a box to get a COVID test. As it turns out, it came back positive. In his mind, he's like, it could be a false positive. And
so he checked out, but you didn't give him a refund?
I haven't yet.
How did you get him to leave? Because he said he was going to stay if he wasn't going to get a refund.
I mean, he didn't push back when I started talking about all the different considerations.
So did you just say, hey, look, there's a lot of people involved here.
Yeah.
A lot of things we got to think about with regard to this situation. It's probably best if you head home and we continue talking about this in the
more or less. I just said, hey, I'm happy to talk about a potential credit for future stay, but what I want to work out first is whether you're leaving now or if you'd be leaving in the morning. And I said, because ultimately what I want to do is meet you in the garage and make it so that you and your wife potentially can touch as little as possible on the way out of the property, to not just be worried about the property, but the fact that we're in a multifamily building, and minimize any risk for any of my neighbors as well.
Yeah, handles, buttons, elevator buttons.
Yep. And so after they did leave, I went around and basically retraced their steps and went back to the elevator, went through the door that they went to. And
I mean, hopefully they hit the elevator button with the elbow or something.
Yeah, but I mean, I brought wipes, and I wiped the entire elevator, as far as like the grab bar that's around the elevator and all the buttons and the door handle of the unit and the door handle for the garage, and just everything that they would have probably touched.
So let's open it up. Make sure you unmute yourself for some dialogue here. Anybody else dealt with that situation? Anybody else dealt with somebody who had actual COVID or diagnosed with COVID in their property? Zach, what you got? You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I had a customer that overheard me talk about my girlfriend was in quarantine, but the quarantine was over, and they got scared, and they left. And Airbnb made me refund their stay. And,
Nice.
we were over the quarantine, and we never saw them. I said hello to them, checked them in with the mask, but that was it. And
How did they overhear you talking about quarantine?
well, they were down at the pool area, and I'm at my upstairs in the house, and I guess I have a loud voice, and bingo, and they just left. Yeah.
I think I would have too, Zach.
Yeah. But the quarantine was over. There was no reason to.
Yeah, but they didn't hear that whole part.
Yeah.
They just heard quarantine, and they're like, boom, I'm out.
And they left. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, folks, there's a lesson for not speaking too loudly at your property.
Yeah. Bingo.
So,
Anybody else?
so is your property like an upstairs, downstairs kind of unit, Zach, or?
I currently rent a room that's not accessible to the house, but they get access to the pool area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a mother-in-law type of.
Yeah.
Not anymore. They don't get access to the pool area.
Yeah,
At least
they
not
still
while
do.
we're quarantining. Although it was over, so it didn't matter.
Right. Well, I have several guests since then, and there's been no problems.
Because you're not talking about quarantine.
Yeah. Good point.
Go introduce them and say, hey, last month we had a guest leave because we've been in quarantine, and watch how quickly they turn around and leave.
I didn't say that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Who else has dealt with COVID-related issues with guests? See, not a lot of people. That's the funny thing. Who knows somebody that got COVID? One
We do.
person, two person. So 2 out of 7. What's that? Not even. That's like 30%.
I mean, me, if you want to include my guest.
Well, I guess you know someone that got COVID.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be 3 out
Well,
of
I guess
7.
here the part that that I think is very real. I know someone who tested positive. I mean, for now, I haven't checked on him yet, but I was.
Oh, right. And how he's dealing with it. He could be
Yeah, like
an asymptomatic positive.
yeah, or
No
it
issues.
could be there is a very real thing of false positives and false negatives. It goes both ways.
Right,
Right. So
right.
It's
Right.
without symptoms, it's kind of hard to say, I think.
Cool. So, Zach, where is your property?
Gotta unmute him.
San Diego, Vista.
Okay. And you how many you have one room that you rent out? Is that the only one you have?
Well, I'm currently going to be renovating a granny flat, and so I'll have 2 at the probably the next few months.
Okay. Good. Linda, we know she's got one she manages in Maine in the summer months, and she's also got a property in Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, beautiful property. Stands up very well in competition to Dan's property in Tahoe. She's also looking at, I believe you've mentioned a couple times you're looking at Hawaii. Dan's got some Hawaii stuff.
Dan has hooked me up with his realtor,
Mhm.
and then
That's crazy.
yeah, it's we've been looking.
Are you ready? Are you ready to roll in Hawaii? Like, I mean, you're ready to buy?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, but something affordable.
Yeah.
Love it.
Not in Hawaii, Linda. Come on. Linda, and for those of you that haven't seen all of our videos, go back and look at the listing review for Linda's property in Tahoe. And then remember, she just told you affordable. Like, her property in Tahoe is amazing. Right, V? Have you seen it? Were you on that call, V?
No, I missed it.
Oh, you got to go back on YouTube and check it out.
I have to because I
Yeah.
love Tahoe.
Yeah.
Okay, so V's properties are in Houston. Dan, you've got properties in Tahoe and Hawaii and somewhere else, right?
Tahoe, Hawaii.
Okay. And Arian, where are your properties at?
So I actually just started my property management company. So I just launched. I'm currently getting some clients. So I'm in Washington State.
Yeah, up there with Derek. Yeah.
In the group, so greater Seattle area. I'll probably be getting one in Seattle by the stadium, like right next to the stadium. Then I also have one in Everett, which is near like where Boeing is. So I'll probably be getting one there soon. So
The
I
stadium
just
is a great
started.
location if people actually
Yeah.
play sports in it.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's a problem.
Derek
But
just told me today on another call. Derek told me that Seattle got a hockey team.
Yeah.
yeah, they did. They did. Yeah.
I don't even know if it matters though.
Actually, a fun fact: Seattle actually won, I believe, the very first Stanley Cup. I want to say the Seattle Metropolitans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was technically called the Stanley Cup, but basically the first professional, what would eventually be the NHL, the Seattle Metropolitans actually won that. And then I don't know why we lost that team and the history of that, but Seattle is very much a hockey.
Yeah. So for those of you who are new, we are full of useless information.
Especially me.
Yeah. So Aaron, Derek is a guy you want to know, right? I mean, he's got a property. He's managing how many in Seattle?
Right now, 35, 40.
35.
Yeah.
I think they're all in the same building,
Okay,
the same
yeah.
3 buildings or something. So when people call him to manage a property that's not in his footprint, he refers it out. So that's a guy you want to know.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
And then obviously you always want to know V because she's a straight up baller. You can just tell by her background.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Thanks for the intro.
Yeah. So what's on your guys' mind today? What can we help you with?
Ooh.
Well, I kind of have something.
Yeah.
So there's this other property that I'm currently looking at, which is a bigger property, but it's like 40 minutes away from Seattle, in this place called Carnation. And it's a really nice, it's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, I believe. And it sits on like 26 acres. That property though, it's, cause I'm going to do like a partnership, which is basically, I take a percentage, but I also will do arbitrage depending on the situation. With that one, the lady was looking to get at least $3,500 a month, for that to like actually work for her in her favor, or else she wasn't actually going to do it. So I'm looking at that, but then I was using AirDNA and other tools, but I wasn't actually able to get enough information just because that area only has 14 properties. So there isn't enough information for me to, analyze it all the way through. So my question, I guess, would be, what do you guys recommend if there isn't, if you don't have that information to, with the analytics and all that, what's another way I could work around that?
Okay, we'll start with Derek.
Yeah. I mean, my thoughts go to taking a look at the calendars. I mean, this year is tough because of the nature of COVID. But taking a look at what the rates are for the people that are there and just do it manually. I realize that takes more time than pulling up a whiz bang report from AirBNB or AirDNA, but really I find AirDNA's numbers not great, even in Seattle, where there's thousands of data points. But if the way that I look at that data, all of my properties are somehow magically in the 95 percentile according to AirDNA's data, and I don't think that's statistically possible. So the only thing that really makes sense on that is that the AirDNA data is bad. So doing research, I mean, when she came up with that number, has this been a short-term rental before?
No, so she's actually never even known about short-term rentals really until actually one of her friends, which referred me to her, told her about it. And she was looking to do long-term, just do a long-term rental. But then she liked the idea of having her property cleaned, between every stay, and having more access to even check the property and check its condition. So she prefers to, be checking on her property, make sure everything's okay, rather than, just having a long-term tenant. So that's how that kind of came along. But that $3,500 mark is basically what she is paying for her mortgage. That's basically what she wants to do, is cover her mortgage. And then she said that she'll be moving sometime soon, a couple months, but this is not like something I'm going to be doing right away, but you know, she's just telling me ahead of time, and that's basically what it is. It's her mortgage that she wants to cover, basically, and that's, yeah, if I could get that for her, you know, if I could make that amount of money each month, then she's okay with doing short term.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I have those types of clients, what I typically do is talk to them about whether they need that 3,500 to cover the mortgage every month, or do they want it? And the reason why I go down that kind of path is finding out if they have bandwidth to make it through a low season,
Yeah.
or to get to high season. You know, some people, as long as they're averaging that, they're okay. In which case, a
Okay.
management model could work fine, because during the summer months, you should be able to do more than that, and they'll.
Right.
But some owners are not fiscally responsible enough to deal with that. You know, they see the money in the account and they immediately spend it. In which case, it's more of a.
I'm out.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
All right. So yeah. So then, if they need it, you know, they need it because otherwise they're going to spend it kind of scenario. Then, you know, then you're going to need to figure out some sort of fixed payment model, and whether that's going to work for you or not. In which case, you know, if not, it's not a good owner, and move on to the next one.
The other issue is that there's 26 or so, 28 acres there.
Yeah. So it's 20. Yeah, it's like 27 acres.
How much of that is cleared land?
I mean, because the property itself is like, I mean, the property is like 3,600 square feet, and then I think like pretty much everything else, like the majority of it is pretty clear. But then it's like in there's a lot of trees around it, but it's pretty open.
Okay,
And
so
then-
here's a couple things that my head goes through. First of all, maintaining that property is going to cost more than $3,500 a month, right? Because that grass has to get cut. You know,
Yeah, I think
you have to keep cable on. You have to pay the electric bill, AC, whatever the situation is wherever you are. The second thing is with land like that, hello, party house, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing I was worried about. You know, having like the party situation.
Those of us with condos don't have that problem. You have a bunch of cleared land there. You have big bonfires. You have big ragers and keggers. You're going to have a lot of issues with
The
that.
very first vacation rental life kegger is going to be at that property.
Yeah. And I mean, what you might want to look into is just, I mean, I know a lot of people cannot stand renting their properties for weddings. But if it's the right property and they can put up tents and people can come and they can have the wedding there and the reception, now you're really just, you're not even listing on Airbnb and Vrbo at that point. You're going to the wedding planners and the event planners in the area and saying, hey, we got this property. And the funny thing is, even with the house, like people don't even need to use the inside of the house except maybe for the bride to get ready in that situation. You don't even need to have, you know, TV and all that. You just got to keep the landscaping right, you know? So
Yeah.
Zach, you got an idea for him? You're muted.
Yeah, don't you have to have like special insurance for that? I heard it's really expensive.
I mean, you're going to have insurance anyway. So define special insurance, you obviously have to talk to people, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, for weddings, I think it's different, but I don't know. That's what I heard.
I would think the caterer would do the, I mean, look, you're an event venue at that point.
Yeah.
You're going to have business insurance. You should have some sense of business insurance depending on the type of business you are and how you're running the entity.
Mhm.
These are all things we have to look at as business owners to do it properly, responsibly, in the right ways, you know.
Yeah.
But some options for you there, Arian. You know, Linda's got some suggestions too.
I do have some suggestions or some information. I have a property that I've had a few weddings. Well, the Tahoe property, I've had a few weddings, and I checked with my vacation rental insurance company, and they do cover events and weddings. You know, whatever kind of business you want to host at your home, because it is, you know, business insurance. So weddings are covered. And there's a website, The Knot,
Mhm.
KNOT, and it's associated now, merged with Wedding Wire, and you can post for $105 a month. You can post in one of their categories, like for rehearsal dinners, and people will find you to have small weddings, 100 or 30 or smaller weddings. They'll find you in that link. So if you host in the wedding venue category, it's a lot more expensive, but you can advertise in the smaller category links and get plenty of business. I added mine about a month ago, and I've had a lot of inquiries already.
Okay, wow. That's very interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think you just need to look at it from different angles of how to run
Yeah.
the business. I mean, the
For sure.
arbitrage thing, I think, would be risky
Yeah.
just because it's so
Yeah.
far away.
Well, and a couple other things to think about with Carnation, because that's such a small town. I
Mhm.
would talk to the township, or I don't know. I don't know enough details about Carnation to know if like they have a mayor or they
Yeah,
have a city.
honestly, I'm not too sure. I'm not too familiar with the area, even though I'm pretty close to it. I
So
just need to do more research
yeah,
on that.
I would find out what their requirements are for venues and their tolerance for it,
Yeah.
those types of things. And the other thing with that area, without knowing anything about the property where it's at, find out about flooding, because Carnation almost every winter has flooding. So I don't know what kind of flood risk the property has,
Okay.
and how close it is to the river.
Is it possible, Derek, too, that they would have different rental restrictions there?
It would shock me if they even have any sort of, it's such a small town,
Okay.
Yeah.
have anything, but I'd be more, I would still just ask them about it, because it is such a small town. Like they'll probably appreciate you asking,
sure.
just making
Yeah.
sure it's, I don't know what the population is, but I want to say it's under 1,000. It's not it's a small, tight knit community.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those places that you piss off the wrong person in town and it's not going to go well for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I could. Yeah,
you need to find out who those people are and get them on your side, in which case they could become your best friend. Maybe that person in town is a baker, and you're referring all of the wedding cakes to them, and all of a sudden they're your best friend.
right.
Oh my goodness, you missed the. I thought for sure you were going to say maybe the person's a baker and you referred them to candlestick maker.
Yeah. No, wasn't going there, but I see what you're doing.
Yeah. All right, cool. Great question, Arian. Thanks for
Thank you.
jumping on and asking that question. And
Thank you, guys.
great feedback from everybody else. Who else has another challenge that they want to bring up that the group can help with? How are things in Houston, V?
Matt, that's such an open-ended question. It's like I am going down my list and see which one I want to bring up.
Let's do it.
No, so I had a conversation with Master Cancel today. Do you guys know what they are?
Who?
Master Cancel.
Master canceled. No, I have no idea.
So this entrance. Well, I guess I don't know if it's entrance, but so you pay is cover your cancellations between 60 to 2 days prior to arrival. They don't want to call it travel insurance because they said it's not travel insurance, but it sounds like travel insurance.
Okay. Before you go any farther, let me read what the website says.
Yeah.
What is Master Cancel? A program that enables property managers to offer flexible terms and conditions to their guests. Program reimburses the property manager for cancellations that occur 2 days or more prior to check-in, but no greater than 60 days prior to check-in. For example, for Saturday check-in, Friday and Saturday would not be covered. However, Thursday cancellations back to the 60th day before check-in would be covered. Property managers enhance guest satisfaction through flexible cancellation terms and conditions. They result in more bookings, additional OTA discounts, and favorable OTA placement on their online listing portals. Property managers are reimbursed for lost booking revenue resulting from guest-friendly cancellation terms and conditions. And property managers protect the revenue earned from bookings for both their company and the owners they represent, not just the initial deposits. Interesting.
Doesn't it sound so cool?
Okay, it sounds so cool. So what's the catch?
Yeah, what's the catch? How do they make money? Because it sounds expensive to me.
Well, it says here, how much does it cost? Fixed
So
percentage applied to all paid bookings.
Yeah, so they run, I guess they run a risk analysis to see what your cancellations rates are. And then they'll decide on what percentage of your total booking cost to be the premium. And it looks like the property manager is paying for it. It helps, but you know, on the front end, and then however you do it on the back end. From what I heard is between 5 to 8% of your total cost, trip cost. I just thought it's a great way to offer flexibility, but I'm that type of person that I always see good in stuff first. So that's why.
Why would you not just use, like, Airbnb has the flexible, that option where you can do flexible terms if you want to.
Well, you look at Zach's situation. Okay, well, the guest was in the property and canceled.
Yeah, so that wouldn't.
It would only cover him if they had a 7-day stay. They canceled like day 1 or 2, right? They left. Anything past 48 hours would count.
I would double check that. It sounds like it's up to 2 days before arrival.
Yeah, 2 days before arrival. It's not the day of, or it's not during the stay.
Yeah, so Zach would have still been left holding the bag on that.
Because you're right. It is certain date ranges. It's that 60-day to 2-day before, prior to check-in. Does not protect 1 day before check-in date and day of check-in date cancellations. So what are you saying? Are you saying if you use the Airbnb?
Well, so Airbnb does have an option where you can offer flexible, like basically you can have a strict cancellation policy or a flexible policy. And if you have the strict, they pay more for that. And I guess essentially just pricing that into your model, like charging 5 to 7% more yourself. Because the thing about all these insurance products, and this goes for damage waiver insurance too, once you have scale, do damage waiver yourself. Like,
charge a damage fee for every booking.
Exactly.
That's what we're moving to.
Yeah, charge a flat fee yourself, cut the insurance company out of the equation, don't share the revenue with them, pocket it. And, you know, like a company like myself with 3,000 bookings a year, if I charge $44 a reservation, that's a real dollar amount at the end of the year that I can use to pay for anything that happens.
Well, what they say is if the guests cancel up to 2 days prior to arrival, they will pay the property manager up to 90% of the total reservation cost.
Okay, so they're not even paying the full thing.
No. So it's the 10% deductible.
Yeah. So I would say, why not just run that yourself?
You know, and that makes sense, right, for managers. But when we're talking about property owners, 1 to 5 properties, somebody like myself, Dan, how many total properties do you have?
7.
7. So he's right on that fringe of whether or not it's going to make sense for him. Zach's got 1 right now. He's going to get a second. Linda's got 2, 3, maybe more in the works. Does it make sense? I mean, when we're talking about real scale on a damage waiver, I'm not sure that the scale is there, especially for somebody like me, 1 property.
Yeah, 1 property, I don't know. Yeah.
I'm getting $50 damage waiver, let's say.
Yeah. I mean, because how many reservations are you going to have in a year? 30?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I have, like, so I just had almost that cancellation we talked about last week, Derek. The guy ended up paying, but it wasn't in the 60-day window anyway.
Mm,
So I wouldn't have qualified for this, and it was my big winter season booking.
yeah.
So like it seems like I'd be paying for this a lot, and if somebody cancels with it at day 70, they're going to get their money back from Verbo, and I can't put a claim in here.
Yeah. I
So I
mean,
guess it came from, I feel that lately our staff has been dealing a lot with cancellation, and it's just caused such a stress on them. You know, people, they know we have a strict 30 days cancellation policy, but they just still want to push it anyway to get their full refund. And by having this in place, it can help a little bit with, okay, fine, you want to cancel, let's cancel.
Is this just a COVID issue? Just the COVID cancellation is the abnormal?
There's several reasons for cancellation. And I would say 50% use COVID as a reason.
yeah. So
Yeah.
to put it in perspective, like for my business last year, if I would have had this policy at 5% of the booking cost, I would have had to pay $150,000 to cover the insurance. And in that same year, let me see, I can do the quick math.
Okay.
Let's see, we probably had, so I would have had maybe, and this is just all cancellations, just using my normal actually, no, I didn't even have that many cancellations. So
Yeah, but you're also like the unicorn in the group.
no, I'm just putting it in perspective. So I probably had 200.
What's your normal cancellation percentage?
About 8, I'd say 8%. And that doesn't even look at the window as far as how many happen to be in that golden window. So I probably would have had 240,000 in cancellations hypothetically, but once someone gets within 30 days for me, I'm no refund.
I'm a 60-day no refund.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to call you and get your spills on what you tell a guest.
Yeah, what do you tell a guest? What are you talking about? Oh, you mean on the refund side?
On the refund?
Yeah, about the cancellation.
They signed my rental agreement, and they initialed it within 2 inches of where it gives the cancellation policy.
What do you say, Derek? Day 29, I call you or email you, or how, well, first off, let's answer this question.
Yeah.
How are they communicating with you if they want to cancel at day 20?
I mean, some people email, some people call, some people, so I think it's a mix.
Go through the AirBNB
Probably
app?
more often than not, when people want to try and get their way, they try with a phone call, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I think that.
So let's do it. Hey, Derek, it's Matt. I'm coming in 7 days, and I've got unit 385 booked. I hope you're doing well. Listen, plans change, and I'm going to go ahead and need to cancel. I'm hoping you can work with me. You know, this era of COVID and everything is kind of messed up travel a lot and messed up my plans. So I'm just wondering how we can work that out and get a refund on that.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that, Matt. I understand. So what I can do at this point is I can cancel your reservation because you're in less than 30 days. I'm not gonna be able to refund you right now. But what I can do is I'll open up my calendar and cancel your reservation now if you're not gonna come. And then if I'm able to get any nights booked, you know, we can talk at that point that I can refund you for any nights that I get rebooked. But
well, how am I going to know, Derek, if you actually rebooked those nights? Do I have to keep calling you back and ask for a refund on those nights that you actually booked?
I would say that you can give me a call back the day after your scheduled checkout, and I'd be happy to go over that with you.
Okay, great. Now he's going to lie to me when I call back, right? I mean, what do you actually, do you give them money back?
If I rebook,
I'm all about the double dipping at that point, though. I mean, we're trying to make up for COVID, bro. I'm not saying we should lie. I'm a very honest person. I want to be clear on this.
Yeah.
recording that way. But
Yeah.
you're giving.
Only if I rebook, and part of that is because Washington state law. When it comes to rentals, it covers for all types of rentals. Like if you're a long-term landlord and someone breaks lease, you're only allowed to collect lease payments from that tenant until the point that you collect new rental revenue. So I just apply that same rule to guests, and it depends too on the situation. I mean, pre-COVID type of scenario, like hypothetically, they could have booked at a much higher rate, and then I end up getting a much lower rate. I'm only refunding you what I'm able to bring in for that same time period.
Dan, what are you doing with this situation?
Did you say Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Personally, it just depends on the situation and rebooking, and right now, Airbnb just gives them their money back.
I mean, not for COVID though, anymore. Anyway.
Yeah. For
but but there's the travel restrictions in Hawaii. You can't get around that. So with that.
So Dan, in your property, someone messages you and they want to cancel within 10 days.
Yeah. I just tell them I follow the Airbnb's strict cancellation policy typically, and if they're nice about it, I offer the rebooking clause.
The credit on rebooking.
Credit on rebooking, yeah.
How much do people take you guys up on these credit on rebookings? Because it's like a gift certificate, right? That's not going to get cashed in.
To a certain extent. I mean, yeah, that's the other angle that I have done in COVID too, is, in addition to with COVID, I've extended people up to a year to use it as any part that we're not able to resell as a credit. I'd never done that before, but in the world of COVID, I feel like that's another way to help.
Yeah. Zach, what were you going to say? You had your hand up there. You got to unmute yourself.
So if you don't give these people their money back, what are the chances that they're ever going to come back?
That's what we were talking about when COVID first hit, because everybody was decimated by it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you start, you don't give their money back. And what are the chances that they're going to say, they're going to give their friends, a good, like to say, these guys are great. They're not going to give you a referral. It seems to me you're burning a bridge when you don't give these people their money back. No?
I think it depends on your property, right? Because I don't disagree with what you're saying there, but depending on your property, what we're finding in the short-term rental world is that the majority of people aren't getting referrals. And I'm a referral expert. I wrote a book on referrals. They're getting their bookings direct from the listing sites. And if they're lucky, they're getting rebookings from those same people. So yeah, the rebooking won't come, right? If that's the case. But I'm not seeing anybody talking about referrals. Very few, I think, a small percentage in this industry are coming from referrals. A lot, though, depends on your property. So, for instance, you have property in Disney. Somebody goes to Disney. Somebody comes back. They're going to tell their friends about your property in Disney. You might have a leg up on that, right? My property in Fort Myers, they're not going there for my property. They're going there for the beach, right? So, and as we learned on Linda's property in Tahoe, they're going there for the hot tub. So, to your point, I mean, as a referral guy, I agree with your statement. That's a challenge because you're not going to get referrals. The struggle becomes, at what point do people stop taking advantage of all that's going on? I mean, this industry is not a hotel, right? That's one of the things that I think is one of the biggest misconceptions with the industry, is that we're often compared to hotels, but we're much different. You don't pay a cleaning fee at a hotel, right? You have full kitchen usage at, our properties, and they're maintained with much more love than, a traditional commercial environment like a hotel. And so I think that, they really stand out differently. And so I think the booking rules are different when it comes to those things. And unfortunately, I don't think the guests really feel that way. I think they like to cancel. I'll give you an example. I stay at Hilton's a lot when I travel for business. With Hilton, it's like you you got to cancel within like the 24 hours or you don't get a refund, right?
You mean up to 24 hours in advance, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're strict on that. But when COVID hit, I had a prepay non-refundable stay near Cleveland, and they refunded me. So they were top of the line on that, kind of like what Zach's referring to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all went through that stage of that 3-month time frame where we just were kind of believing we'd give people their money back due to COVID, because COVID, I think, was the extreme. But I'm seeing more and more in this industry that people aren't refunding.
Yeah.
I mean, I will tell you this. We had a guest a few years ago book our prime season rental, which is valued at $5,000 a month for us, which is a big hit. It's 3 months is more than 50% of the money we earn on the property in a year, right? And within 60 days, I think it might have been 60 days, maybe it was a little bit longer, but they paid the deposit and then they canceled, within like 90 days or whatever it was. And they lost 50% of their money. And our response to them was, her husband had a heart attack. We were very sad that he had a heart attack, but she blocked our calendar. Not her fault, but our calendar was blocked because of her booking for a very long period of time. And so what we said was, we will help you file the claim. We'll advise you, we'll be here if you need paperwork or anything. But you got to use the travel insurance that you bought. Because at the time we were making all our guests buy that $79 policy through Verbo. And then we ended up rebooking and got full rate, for that time frame. So I don't know. I mean,
yeah, and to be clear on my policy too, it has shifted from in the February, March, April timeframe where people were on my calendar, but basically anybody who's on my calendar now booked after COVID was out of the bat. So someone that booked in May that's now contacting me because they're canceling their September stay because the virus isn't gone yet, I don't really have a lot of sympathy for that, because they booked with full knowledge and at the rate that I'm charging right now, at such a low rate, that I'm not sad about keeping 50% of their money or whatever this situation is, wherever they're
Linda,
at.
what are you doing on your properties?
I'm not offering a refund for anybody that's booked post-COVID. Somebody asked me if I could put it up for a cancellation that was 2 weeks out, and and refund whatever I got. And I got a rebooking that same day, so I was able to refund them. They were very happy. I got more per night than I did from that guest, so I was happy. So I don't mind refunding if I'm able to replace them.
Now that's a good point, Zach, that I think that just about every guest understands that if you can rebook at the same amount or higher, but if you can't rebook at the same amount or higher, they often understand the fact that they're not going to get a refund when you explain that to them. And they're very happy with the refund if a booking does come through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I found that guests really understand that they have committed to your one property there, and if they cancel and you lose the business last minute, it's not fair for you to absorb it. I haven't found guests to be upset about that.
It's also very different, Linda, with the type of property that's being rented, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a home share is way different than a whole house, way different than a condo, a townhome, your Tahoe place, the main place. Like the bigger the property, the more expensive it is per night. I believe, I could be wrong by this, but I believe the more understanding the people are going to be. Right? They probably have the money to lose. Where I think in Zach's case, he's got, what is it, a room, kind of like an in-law apartment, or what do you got there, Zach?
Yeah, it's a private entrance off to the side of the house. And This
What's
is
your
one-
average night rate? What's your average rate, you think?
Well, I'm getting like $90 now, but during the winter months, I think it's like 70.
Okay. Yeah. And so Linda's getting, remind me again, what are you getting for your Tahoe place per night?
500 to 700 a night.
Right. So drastic difference in clientele for that. And I
Right.
mean, in my place in Florida, Zach, we're getting 100, 110 in the summer. We drop it down to like 75 in the summer.
Right.
And then we're 170 in the winter months because that's our season. So I think it's so interesting because what I notice at my property, there's a hugely different clientele for January, February, March than there is for the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
It's because January, February, March can afford my place at the higher rate, and they often complain less about stuff. Like they buy their own toilet paper. I mean, shocker. The last guest we had was like, "Is there any more toilet paper in the house?" We're like, "How much toilet paper did you use, people?" Like, it's not COVID. You don't have to go to BJ's and get, So, and I see that a lot with that,
Yeah. No, I mean, I see it in my properties now with the lower rates that we have to have, the clientele. I see mix. I either see the people like today, I had someone show up in their Audi Q7, I think those cars are about $80,000 and they're paying a whopping, $100 a night for a property that should be $400 a night. And then I also have the people that demographically would never be booking my place even in the wintertime that are booking right now because they can afford it.
Right.
And everything in between.
What are you doing, Derek, for your Hawaii September booking?
So I currently don't manage anything in Kauai because I broke off from my company that was there in early part of the year. So I'm rebooting, regenerating once I land back in Kauai. I have some things in the works. But
What was your question about September, Dan?
like how to handle cancellations and stuff.
Yeah, because people are starting to chatter about those cancellations now.
I mean, ultimately, it is. I think you pretty much have to. The best case scenario for Hawaii, if they extend, which I would be shocked if they don't extend the quarantine, especially on Kauai. I'd be shocked if they don't. You pretty much have to refund. The best option you have is to try and see if you can get them to rebook for future dates if you want them to. I mean, it could be that they booked at such. I definitely haven't been honoring the same price type of scenarios, like to anybody that is rebooking. It's like you're going to pay market rates. You want to push out to next summer, sure, but it's going to be the pricing that I think I'm going to get next summer, and it's going to be 3 or 4x what you paid. So, if you can't afford that, great. But if you can't, then cancel and refund. I mean, that's really, and Airbnb, I think, won't even give you a choice as far as that goes if their quarantine's still in place. I would think, but well, I guess time will tell.
And have you been able to push them to next year or to, post-COVID?
A lot of people got the free cancellation the last few months. Most people did, and then there's only a handful for the fall right now. And a few people have contacted me and just checked in about what their options are. So
Yeah. I mean, the only other viable option I'd say, because I'm trying to remember, isn't the law currently on Kauai that the only vacation rental activity that can exist is people that are not subject to quarantine, right?
I'm not really familiar right now what they're doing. They don't want you doing any new bookings as of right now during the quarantine.
But I think the caveat is anyone who's not subject to quarantine, which basically is no one. So as of today, the inter-island quarantine went back into effect. So even if you're flying from Maui to Kauai, your subject. For a while, that was open.
Why did you have an uptick over there?
Oahu is currently having an uptick. They're having more than 100 cases a day. And if they get up to, according to our lieutenant governor, who's also a practicing surgeon, if they get to 3,000 active cases, we could expect a full state lockdown again.
Well,
Just because of the limited, the limited infrastructure for hospitals and ICU beds and that kind of stuff.
I don't see them opening up anytime soon.
Yeah,
Like,
I would.
even this year, unless all of a sudden the rest of the country gets miraculous numbers, you know.
Yeah, no, I would venture to agree. The only exit where I could see it potentially working is if some of the breakthroughs happen with dogs that I've been seeing. You know, they were training dogs to sniff out COVID, and I could see that being a scalable option at airports.
Wow.
So if they can train enough dogs to be in enough airports and like all that kind of stuff, then that could be our key to allowing air travel and have it be safe. Feel sorry for the people that are waiting in line in TSA and get pulled aside and say, sorry, this dog thinks you have COVID and you can't fly today. But, you know, if that's what gives us the safety to allow for air travel, that'd be good.
I would, they would allow people that are, that test negatively and can bring their COVID test within the last 3 days to Hawaii, that they would be safe vacationers. That
Yeah,
and
they've talked about that, but so many areas aren't able to get a test in 3 days. Like Seattle, I'm lucky enough that I am able to get tests in 3 days. LA can't. Like I talked to somebody down there earlier today, and even though their significant other was with, like basically everyone in their family has tested positive, but because they are asymptomatic at this point, even though they're living in the same house as other people that have tested positive, they can't get a test because I guess they don't have enough tests, which blows my mind that that's the case when I found out yesterday that I was potentially exposed and I drove hours later through a drive-through testing and got tested. And you know,
every sports team is testing every single day, every single person involved in their organization.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, there are countries that are low COVID, you know, Canada, Japan, that do like to go to Hawaii, and they would be low risk and they can get tests.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zach, what were you saying? You're muted, Zach.
To change the subject, have you guys heard of furnish finders?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you know, I'm getting offers. I haven't accepted it, but you know, like $1,200 a month just for one room, you know, and but it's like a 2-3 month stay.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think of that?
Oh, what are you normally getting?
Yeah, well, it would be more, but you know, it's I'm kind of real picky. I turn down more people than I accept just because it's, you know, their room is right next to my house. With the granny flat, I'm not going to be picky, but man, I'm getting offers all the time. I just don't want somebody to stay in that room that long, you know?
Yeah, I mean the thing, the double-edged sword of something like that is most jurisdictions, once you get 30 days, you have landlord-tenant laws, and you may not be able to get them out.
Oh
That
my gosh, really?
You know, well, it depends on your area, but I mean, I know in in city of Seattle, as soon as someone stays 30 nights, you're not evicting
They're
them.
considered long-term.
Yep.
Interesting. I'm glad I brought that
So
up.
that falls under landlord tenant law, which means you have to take them to housing court if you want to evict them.
And you can't evict them right now under COVID.
That's right.
So
No evictions.
But with that being said, a lot of furnished finders people are here for limited term contracts for
nurses, right?
Nurses,
yeah. And so if you can get a copy of their nurse, you know, their nurse contract, etc. The one caveat I'd say to that is I've had some flakiness with their contracts where they think they have a contract, then all of a sudden they get repositioned to another city or something like that.
Or that's the other thing. They come there with you for a month, and then all of a sudden COVID upticks in Utah and they reassign from there to Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Now what? You
Right.
know, I mean, maybe you don't care in that scenario because they're leaving.
Yeah.
As long as you get paid, I mean, if you got paid for the 3 months, it's fine. If they vacate and you can put it back on the market type of deal, it's probably not a big deal. It all depends on, I mean, at $1,200 a month, you'd have to rent basically 14 nights to make that same amount of money. Do you rent 14 nights a month?
Yeah, man, I've been averaging, you know, a grand 1,200 a month. But again,
But you're dealing with
very
a
picky.
ton. Yeah, you're dealing with a ton of different people on that 1,000 to 1,400, you know, versus one person.
Right, right. Yeah, and I've had some damage, and I'm very picky now over because of the course of the last few years, I've been learning what clientele I want in that room. You know.
Well, with furnished finders, can you just talk to the person before you accept the
Yeah.
book?
Yeah, furnished finders is no fee. I think you just pay a yearly fee or something, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you just call the person who you're getting the offers on and just kind of get a feel for them over the phone. I'm a big fan of that whole phone call screening thing.
Right.
I just feel like I even did that when I had long-term rentals.
Or now in the day of Zooms, have a Zoom with them.
Yeah, there you go.
Like everyone's doing Zoom meetings for everything, you know, have a Zoom where you can even see the whites of their eyes. Why not? You know?
Yeah. Well,
Because sometimes they're on so many Zooms that there are no whites to their eyes.
So that's why your eyes look a little red today.
Oh my God, I had 12 today. Not even kidding. I had 12 Zooms today.
Oh man.
Cool. Any final thoughts before we wrap up for tonight? We're past 9 o'clock. We've been on about an hour. I know V's looking to get something in here. Tell us what you're thinking.
No, I don't want to drag it out for another hours.
Yeah, I know, right? Hey, listen, you know, this is what the Facebook group is for. We didn't do a listing site review tonight, but if you want your listing reviewed, then feel free to post it into the group. We'll take a look at it, and then we can review it online live next week on the call. Don't forget to use the community, the Facebook group community, as a resource. You know, there's a lot of people with a lot of suggestions and different opinions. By far, you know, Derek and I have been told we're very knowledgeable, but we aren't the only people knowledgeable. The third wheel to our leg is Ronnie Bartles, who has a master's in marketing and really understands the nuances behind marketing. So if you have questions about marketing, post them in there. Anything about your listings, anything, you know, about the industry, post them in the Facebook group. People are going to jump in and chime in and answer as many questions as possible. It's about being active in the community, and we love it. We love the interactivity. So, and we're trying to push for some growth this week. So if you can invite just one person who also is involved in the vacation rental industry, that would be super, super helpful.
Yeah. And then
Oh.
also, if anybody's needing some help on their social media, there's a link in our Facebook group for that swipe file to have if anybody has any vacancies for Labor Day, entire section for both Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, so you can use those files, and also have a few for Book Direct that can be used year round. So yeah, take a look at that, and you know, ask us any questions. Yeah, you know.
Cool. I'm going to use you guys a lot when the Granny Flats get, you know, then I'll have a lot bigger place and a lot more money and that kind of thing.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well,
So what's the name of the Facebook page?
It's Vacation Rental Life.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
Join us on there. You'll get an email about follow-up. We'll send out the recording so you can check it out. It'll actually be in the Facebook group as well.
Okay.
But yeah, Vacation Rental Life is we have a page and a group.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. And
Yeah, it was nice meeting you guys.
Thanks for jumping on, guys.
yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
All right. Well, I'm going to leave it to Derek to sign off. Go ahead, Derek.
All right. Well, let's remember to have a great week, and remember to work smart and not hard, and have a great vacation rental life.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you next week, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.